All right, we got the Eufy 4G LTE security camera here, the S330. We're starting off showing some footage there. This is directly screen captured from my cell phone. So this is what you're gonna see when you open up the app and you're taking a look at it. I wanted to show you that. Now this is a comparison from footage I actually downloaded over Wi-Fi. There's also a card on the camera you can download, probably get even higher resolution. But back to the phone here, just showing you what it's like to go through the app, see what you can see here. This is a PTZ, pan tilt zoom, 360 degree view here. So watch this. We're gonna rotate this sucker all the way around. Now you can see over on the right, you can see that red steel beam there. When we come back around, you're gonna see you actually get a greater than 360 degree view. The device itself rotates 360, probably like 359, something like that. Anyway, point is, look at that. You got full coverage from this camera. And you know, I've been kind of hard on PTZ cameras in the past. This one I actually kind of like, and I'm not sure exactly what. Anyway, I just learned there's an alarm on it. You can set it off manually. You can also have it set with something to detect something. It will go off and do that as well. So all the controls are right there. You can turn the spotlight on. Really useful during the day. Love this reminder here because this is a battery operated camera using solar that it's telling you, hey, you're using a bunch of juice. You might want to slow down there. Now you can ignore it and keep going because honestly, well, we'll talk about battery in a bit. It's got plenty of juice there. Anyway, so that's my truck right there. This is my studio here, but let's show you at night what it's like, okay? A couple snowflakes there. We're still kind of in that kind of weather here in Montana. Now that was recorded, that was downloaded from the camera. This is again, what you're seeing when you're looking on your phone itself there. I guess you could look on your tablet as well from the Eufy app. And again, we're gonna show you the kind of range of motion and what you see at night. Now it's got what's called color night vision, but when there's no real light, you're gonna get the black and white. But once you add a little bit of light, because it has, come on, a spotlight built in, you can turn it on and off. Here we go, there we go, turn on the spotlight. And now you can see you're actually getting color here. It's 9:18. Sunset was about an hour ahead of this. We're in the Rocky Mountains here, so it actually gets full dark here a little bit earlier than it does in some other locations. So this is what you're getting in the full night vision versus the color with the spotlight. Anyway, as far as setting this thing up, you really only have 6 screws you have to install. You got 3 mounting points there for the solar panel, 3 mounting points for the camera itself. It comes with all the mounting hardware. You just gotta figure where you're gonna put this up. Now I did kind of a cheat here because I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted this to be permanently. So I set it up here. I thought I'd try it next to my garage door. My issue here is that my studio is in a shed that is entirely metal and I rent. So rather than driving holes through metal and stuff like that, I said, you know what, let's do this little workaround. We're gonna mount it on a 2x4. We can put it up anywhere we want, drive a few screws and test it out. So we'll, you know, you can check back later after a month or two and we'll let you know what we thought about its mounting position. But the setup on this is, again, it's super easy. You don't even need a power, drill or something like that. You can do it with a hand screwdriver. I just got lots of this stuff lying around. So, when you got power tools, you want to use them, right? So you just mount up the solar panel there, and there's a wire that connects the solar panel via USB into the camera itself. You want to set it up so it's tilted to the right angle, of course, and that's going to be, you want to check based on your longitude, latitude, whatever it is there. I think it's latitude as to what angle you want for best use throughout the year. Again, we're up here in Montana, so we don't really have any good angles. Especially this time of year, we're not in full summer or something like that. But again, I'll talk more about how impressed I was with the battery life later. Anyway, for right now, just zip tying it up, making sure that the wire's up and out of the way. Looks kind of neat. Not exactly the most professional job, but again, this is just a temporary setup just to see how it works. And honestly, I at this point, after the fact, I kind of like where it is. I might have to come up with a better permanent position here. Although it's not too bad. And I have like 4 screws holding it into the frame there of the garage door. And it might just stay there as long as we're in the shop. You can mount this about anywhere you want. A lot of people will say stuff about you have to mount it like super high. And again, with this kind of security camera, that's not really what you want to do. We'll talk again. I'm going to cover a whole bunch of the details later on. I just want to show you what it looks like and what the setup is, so you can see when you're seeing the video, you know where it's coming from. But let's jump into the app and talk about what it's like to set this thing up. So you download the app, you go in here, you select, now for me, I've got 2 locations where I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna do it via Wi-Fi connecting to a router. You just scan the little thing there on the little barcode there. Then tell it to sync. Now it's gonna ask for your password for your Wi-Fi. And of course, believe it or not, I'm not gonna show myself entering it here. It's also gonna give you a special barcode you show back to the camera there to connect. And of course, that's gonna tell the Wi-Fi information. Again, I'm not gonna show you that yeah, I think you can figure out why. Anyway, so now we've got it set up. We're gonna say where we're gonna put this. I'm gonna label it porch, because honestly, when I first was gonna set it up, as you can see, there's kind of a deck next to my shop there. So I was gonna put it up on the deck, but I changed things later. I know there's a garage door setting. Maybe there's an option in there to write in your own. But now you're just selecting like, well, how much capture do you want to have? Microphones, do you want the microphone set up? Do you want audio recording? Of course, I want both of those. It says fully charge the device. So with a full battery there, you're ready to go. You can put in the SIM card that comes with it if you're going to do the 4G thing. I'm just doing Wi-Fi, so that's not really an issue for me. Here's the installation guidance. Now remember, a lot of people sit there and tell you, oh, you want these up 15 feet in the air. Not so. This thing is designed to be 8 to 10 feet up in the air. Now remember, it's a PTZ, so it's got pan, tilt, zoom, find people coming towards it, stuff like that. Here's the mounting diagram that you want it kind of in a dangling position, if you would. And then some ideas about, about where you want to place it. People are going to be coming towards you, obstacles that are going to be, you don't want to be seen, or you do want to be seen. Of course, the solar panel, putting that someplace where it can actually see what's going on. And then there, at least on mine, there was a firmware update. You always want to keep it updated to the latest firmware, so go ahead and do that. And now you're ready to actually jump in there and start using the device. All right, you saw it in action. Let's talk about some of the details when it comes to this camera, because it's got some great features, some of the stuff that I'm always looking for when it comes to new security cameras. So let's jump into it. First off is no power cords. You don't need them. This thing, as I said before, it's got full solar power. In fact, it's got enough battery life, 9,400 milliamp hour. It's got enough battery life in this sucker that it can last an entire month without getting charged from anything else. Doesn't need solar to keep it going, doesn't need some trickle charging. It can last with average use for a full month. And I gotta tell you, we're up here in Montana, all right? It's not optimal season. I'm not an optimal, elevation, not elevation, but was it latitude? Latitude? Anyway, the fact is, it shouldn't, something like this should need a lot more. I would think it would need a lot more solar than it does. And it's been doing just fine. So I got to give them credit for that. As I said, 9,400 milliamp hour battery, 2 times charging speed over solar there. It just works. I'm stunned. I don't know what to say about it. I love this kind of setup. I love not having to run power and worry about power for something like this. Next up, this is one of the things also, I saw this picture and my gosh, I don't know why this didn't hit me before, because with this sort of setup, you could put this on a job site. You could just nail it to a 4x4, stick it in the ground, and you got yourself some job site security. Then you're like, well, what about Wi-Fi? Well, remember, it also runs off of cellular. So you can run this just completely disconnected from everything. And I think for a lot of the smaller, a lot of bigger, builders and construction sites, they have their own kind of security systems. But for smaller crews, you might want this kind of stuff. You might need that, but you can't really budget for a huge security system with, constant surveillance in the whole 9 yards. This will get you close to that for a lot less. All right, let's keep going here. 4K color and day and night. Now, here's what I have found with this sort of thing. Does it work? Yes. It works better when there's a little bit of light. Basically, what it really comes down to, at least in my experience, is that in full pitch black, you're not going to get really good color. But if there's even just a smidge of light coming in, it will really start to get those colors to pop, make things more identifiable. And it's one of the things that is nice to have, especially if something happens. You can be like, yeah, and he was wearing a green sweater or something, rather than just saying it was a dude about yay tall who looked like this in black and white. It really does help. All right, let's keep going here. And of course, 4K Ultra HD, which I really, really like. And it has that spotlight. And on top of it, it's not just your regular standard kind of spotlight. It's more like a ring light. Gives a better diffuse kind of lighting over the whole area. And we talked about the dual connectivity. So this thing does use 4G or Wi-Fi. Now you have to select it when you set up, and you can change it, but it doesn't change automatically. You have to be the one to change it. But that said, this works off of AT&T, it works off of T-Mobile, it works off of Verizon, comes with a SIM card ready to go. You just sign up and you can do that. Now for me, Wi-Fi is just fine. So I don't have any need for the 4G here, but I have talked to some of you before, and a lot of you said, yeah, I could really use that sort of thing. And let's not forget, I kind of took it for granted in this. This is a PTZ or pan tilt zoom kind of camera. And a lot of these cameras that I've used before, they will pan somewhere, like they'll go over to here, they'll go over to here, you'll get like 180 or 220. This thing is a full 360. Now it won't continuously spin, but it will spin to zero, then all the way around to 360, maybe even a little bit more, honestly, from what I saw. But the fact is that you can get full coverage with this. Now, up and down, of course, you're going to be limited, but that's why you mount this thing up kind of high. It has full instructions there about where the best place for mounting and everything else. I got mine up about 8 feet off the ground. It'd be nice to get it higher, but I'm kind of limited in the situation that I have here. But, for me, it works great. And the pan tilt zoom, I've been kind of iffy on them. But this thing has been working out really nicely. It also has a return to zero spot, so you can set what the default position is, and after you pan, tilt, and zoom, you don't have to go back and set it back up. It just goes right back to home where it's supposed to be. I like that a lot. The enhanced AI security, like it will sit there and tell you whether it's a vehicle or whether it's a person, whether it's just motion. I've noticed that the second I started using it, I really like that because it can be like, hey, there's a person out there versus, hey, I just saw some motion. That's useful for me. Now, you can use it with the home base system, the S380 there. I don't have the home base system. I'm probably not going to get the home base system. You can, it gives you a couple benefits. You can store up to 16 terabytes of storage locally on that. Also, it has the Bionic Mind. Who comes up with these names? It's a bit much. But it allows for facial recognition, which would be kind of cool. I wonder if I could train it to be like, hey, ignore it if it sees my wife. Ignore it if it sees my kids. That would be a benefit for me. I'm not sure if it does that, but maybe for those of you who have the base system, you can chime in and let us know. Now, as I said before, it comes with the SD card. You get a free 7-day trial with that. It works on all 3 of the major US networks. And local storage. So it does have a port for an SD card. In fact, it comes with a 32 gig SD card, but can hold up to 128 gigs. Now they say the 32 gig will accommodate up to 8 months of 4K footage. That's going to be some small clips, all right? Let's be honest, those are going to be smaller clips. If you want to record longer stuff, you want more robust recording, you're going to want to step up to the 128 gig card there. The next one we got here, instant notifications on your phone. Of course, that's pretty standard for a lot of these cameras. I've tested a lot of cameras over the years. Any of the new ones that work with the app, they all have that. But of course, it's good to see that they have it. This right here, though, this is something I really like because I used to have this on old camera, and people kind of got away from that, where you could set up and actually map out different areas to basically say, hey, don't respond to motion in these areas. This was very useful to me. One of my first cameras, I was living in California, and we had a palm tree that would blow kind of like right off the edge of where the camera was looking. And I was able on that camera to go, hey, this area of it, let's carve that out and ignore any motion that happens here, which is fine because they're not going to be walking through the palm tree. So let's focus on this. And I've seen cameras, a lot of cameras that just basically don't have that. But I've also seen ones that are like, oh, you can fill in this block or that block, and it's really kind of cheesy. I really like to see this kind of like, no, I can draw exactly what I want and make it, mask out this area versus that area. That is a huge one. I've been looking a lot for those. It's almost like I won't say I wouldn't buy a camera without it, but for me, it's a huge selling point. And then, okay, it's got two-way audio. You could probably hear that in the video. You could definitely hear the birds. I think in one of the segments there, you could hear the birds chirping. You can talk back and forth on this. You can listen in. Light and sound we talked about there. It's got the spotlight. Built for harsh environments. We're going to come back to that one here in just a second. And the voice assistant, it works with She Who Shall Not Be Named. I don't want to say her name, but also the Google Voice Assistant if you're into that sort of thing. Now, I haven't tried this at home, but I've tried it with other ones. I've got one that will do that where I can just say, hey, and I tell my TV that because it's wired up with She Who Shall Not Be Named. And I can just see it on my TV when I'm sitting at home, and I really like that. But let's go back to the harsh environments. Now, it says it will do down to -4 Fahrenheit, that's -20 C for our northern neighbors, and 122 Fahrenheit, that's up to, I think it's like 50 C for those in the Celsius group. Now, here's what I can tell you this. Now, I only got this about a month ago, so in April. Now, I realize for a lot of you, April's nice and warm and spring-like and stuff, but I'm in Montana, and I'm at an elevation about 5,000 feet right here in the Rockies. So April, it kind of goes back and forth. We had a really mild winter, but April is actually, we got some real snow, and so it's survived snow, it's survived rain, it survived freezing rain, it survived slushy snow. But like the worst thing is it would rain during the day and then freeze at night. Now I think the coldest it got was just under 20 degrees. But that kind of thing where it rains during the day and then the rain seeps into stuff and then it freezes at night, if you've been around that, you know what that can do. It can do some real damage. This thing hasn't had a problem. I've said for the longest time that I think Eufy makes some really great hardware, and this one's lived up to that reputation. I really can't fault any of the hardware. It just does what it's supposed to do. It was super easy to set up and connect. You saw there as I did the walkthrough on the phone trying to set this thing up. Didn't have any problems really getting it going. Now, let's talk about, though I said we talk about the one big problem, the elephant in the room. And that is about a year and a half ago, I did this video and I was talking about Eufy and why you wanted to stop using them. And I think we do need to talk about that because I've had a lot of people reach out to me like, hey, where are we with this now? So the situation back then was they said nothing, that they were using end-to-end encryption and that they were using, and that nothing was being sent to the cloud if you didn't want it. You could have everything stored locally. Turned out that there was not complete end-to-end encryption. There was a gap. People are able to get a hold of some of the data. There were some other small minor issues. We did a whole video about it. You can go check on it. Since then, part of the problem was when Eufy first heard about it, they kind of they denied it. And that left everyone, even after they fixed the problem, and they have addressed the problem. They do say like, hey, if you do have these certain features enabled, it's got to send stuff to the cloud. So just FYI, so you know that's happening. Otherwise, everything else is stored locally. They do have the end-to-end encryption in place now. But a lot of people are still upset with them because they said, hey, you lied to us. You told it was there. Then you denied that it was a problem. And I totally am not apologizing for them in the least bit. Now, a lot of people did come out to me and were like, hey, that's not an issue for me, so I'm going to keep using them. And I always say, you do you. A lot of people, though, are going to be asking me, hey, are you forgiving the company for this? Here's what you have to remember. Companies are not people. This isn't Steve from down the street. This is a huge corporation with thousands of people working there. And, people change all the time. I have people talking about, I like DeWalt, they've been around for over 100 years. The guy who was working there 100 years ago is no longer working there. There's no continuity when it comes to that stuff. It's not the same person. So I'm a lot more forgiving of a company that made a mistake than I am probably of Steve because, Steve's the same dude, all right? So anyway, but the fact of the matter is I've always liked, and you can check the other video and say it, I've always liked their hardware. I always thought the software did a great job. So I always liked that. The issue was there was a security issue. They fixed the security issue. The question is, do you want to forgive them? And I'm going to put that on you. Okay, I could say anything I want here, but this is a paid advertisement. Not advertising. This is a paid review. I don't do paid advertisements. But that said, I've always liked the product, and I've talked about them here on the channel before. At the end of the day, it's your money, so you got to make the call. So Don't just listen to one person here on YouTube. You do your own research. You figure out what makes you comfortable. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.